Joan Tronto is a professor and chair of the Department of Political Science at the University of Minnesota. She is also the author of the book, Caring Democracy, Markets, Equality, and Justice. Professor Tronto, thanks for joining us on Access Minnesota.
My pleasure to be with you.
Let's start with how you define care, and how does care relate to democracy?
So I define care very broadly. This is a project I've been working on for over 20 years. And 24 years ago, a colleague and I, Berenice Fisher, defined care this way. Care is everything we do to continue, repair, and maintain our world so that we may live in it as well as possible.
Who are the people in society that need care, and who are the people who give care?
Well, in fact, this is one of the, I'm a very slow thinker. It's taken me 20 years to realize this. But in fact, everybody, every person is both a giver and a receiver of care. Most of us think of ourselves when we think of care or caring activities, we think of ourselves in the heroic role of caregiver, right? I take care of my children, or as a teacher of my students, or doctors take care of patients. But in fact, over the course of our lives, we are all constantly engaged in the process of giving and receiving care. After all, we had to get dressed and get to this place and get set up to do this interview, and that's care work as well. Most of us as able-bodied adults do a lot of caring for ourselves, so we don't even count it as care, but it is. The other thing that's fascinating is children as young as 10 months old try to imitate parents and give care back. So this Norwegian psychologist named Stein Bratten has done this research where he has a caregiver sit at a table with a child, feed the child, then put the spoon down. And of course, as they're feeding the child, they're going, open up. And the child, of course, then opens their mouth and they feed the child. They put the spoon down and the child picks up the spoon, takes food, goes to the adult to try to get the adult to eat in the way that the child has just done. There seems to be something almost hardwired in humans about the desire to care for others.
We as a society have a moral imperative to give care to those who need it.
Well, okay, so we have to go more slowly than jumping from just there is care to a moral imperative for society as a whole. In truth, every society has a theory about how care should be organized. We don't usually think, when we're thinking, I'm a political theorist, when we think of political thought, we often think about organizations of governments, we think about issues of protection in terms of preventing war, and we don't usually think about the fact that every society also has to organize care one way or another. Now, historically, the usual way to organize care has been to create households and to say, let the households take the caring roles and do care within themselves. And it's in Aristotle's Politics, Book 1, that there's a separation between the household and the political order, and the household is the realm where care gets done. But as you begin to move out, you realize that no, there are actually also public forms of care that are also always being given. Educating a population is a form of caregiving. Providing for health and providing regulations for health care are a kind of care. Taking care of the young, the sick, the elderly have historically been done either by states or by individual communities or by churches. There are hundreds of ways to organize care, but every society has to figure out how to do this.
How have politicians ignored the issue of care?
Okay, so starting in the late 19th century, something important happens, and that is care gets professionalized. So whereas once upon a time, if you gave birth, you did it at home with community women helping you out, now we have birth in hospitals. It used to be that if you died, your family was responsible for taking care of the arrangements of doing something with your body. And in many societies, that's still true. There might be people in the community. There isn't a whole separate industry to take care of that. Education has historically in most societies been done in the home, but now we have an educational system. So as you look at it, care begins to move out of the household and into the market, into government agencies, into the state itself in the 19th century. And as you begin to expand those roles, you can either take them very seriously or you cannot. And politicians have conceived of these things really piece by piece, right? Oh my gosh, people are beginning to create school systems. We better create a system for taxing to create schools. Oh my gosh, we now have hospitals that have come into existence. We better pass regulations to manage how the hospitals are built, where they're built, whether they're too many in one place or not enough in another, right? So politicians, as with everything, address issues one at a time as they come up. But the claim that I make in the book, and I think it's a valid one, is that it's time for us to step back and as a society ask the question, wait, we created a whole system of ways of creating and taking care of people. Is this the way we should really organize it? Because there's one serious problem that comes in the way we typically organize things. And it's not, because politicians aren't thoughtful, it's that they're facing this one question at a time. Care work has historically been undervalued as work, and it's been historically underpaid. And it's therefore also historically been given over to people who aren't of very high status in the society. Women, slaves, servants, working class people, now people of color, people of ethnic and racial minorities are the people who end up doing vast amounts of the caring work in the United States, and for that matter, in the globe. So the question is, does that mean they're not valuable? Does that mean the care work they're doing is not important? No, in fact, if they stopped doing their work, the whole society would stop functioning. But if you look at what's valued in the society and what gets higher pay, what gets more prestige, it's not those caring jobs. Now, that's a problem, and we could solve it by elevating that work. We could solve it by redistributing that work differently so that it didn't get only the worst paid people were the ones who ended up doing it. There are lots of solutions to the problem. But if we're concerned about equality in a democratic society, then having basically excluded a whole bunch of people and said, you take care of that stuff, we'll talk about the important business here ourselves, is a way to create a set of exclusions and marginal peoples that is really threatening to a democratic way of life.